Problems together by combining historical, climate, food, and economic data so you can make informed decisions as we shift into a new era. Here's what was, this is what's coming. Our world is never going back to 2019, so what will the new era look like? And most importantly, what is immediate that will affect the pocketbook and the outlook into next year so we can all get ready? Thank you for joining. I'm your host, David DuByne. Right along here with Ransom Godwin every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight, taking you through the changes that we see week to week, month to month. It's a trend. We know where it's going. Fitch downgrades U.S. credit rating from AAA to AA+. Oh, I forgot to look up the list on AA+ rated countries. What do you think they would be? Now, the signposts out there are so clean that something as significant is happening with our U.S. dollar. In addition, it happens with the food prices, and things just keep going up. I saw somebody walk through a supermarket earlier today, like a live feed, and they had prices that they had been keeping track of over the last 6 months, and everything was up 30, 50, 80%. And it was strange things. It was things like mustard and, this kind of thing that you wouldn't think of so much, bullion cubes, this kind of stuff. In addition to the olive oil, which was significantly more in the coffee and this sort of stuff. So it's very clean, the roadmap where we're going. It's not going to end. This is just the trend. So as we look through the trend tonight, Ransom's going to join me here. And I just have a new list of the BRICS that are going to announce membership here in August. Now, will it entail an announcement of a global gold-backed, and I'm going to say this, it's not going to be a reserve currency, gold-backed currency. They will be gold-backed tokens for swapping on. That way it can't be manipulated. See, the whole thing about having a reserve currency is it can be manipulated. But if you simply have gold-backed tokens that are swappable between nations, and each token has a value for gold inside it, whether it's a 1 ounce piece of gold or 1 kilo bar of gold associated with that one token with that much value, that can't really be manipulated. The only thing manipulatable is the gold price, but it's going to run like a scalded dog, as they say in the Southeast U.S. So before I bring Ransom on here, countries that are going to be announced as new members of the BRICS alliance: United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. Oh, pull the dagger out of the heart of the U.S. dollar, petrodollar. Bangladesh, Venezuela, another oil producer. Argentina, Indonesia, another OPEC member. Ethiopia, Bahrain, Mexico, Nigeria, both oil producers. Algeria, an oil producer. Egypt and Iran, major oil producer. What does that list have in common, do you think? I don't know, Ransom, but it seems like, we talked about this before. Flag Month, Rainbow Flag Month was, what month was that for the, I forget so easily. I'm like a goldfish. Okay, the month before last. This last month was global boiling, and then, this month is going to be all about the finance disruptions due to Fitch downgrading U.S. from AAA to AA. And Ransom, take it over, man, because I want to look at the list of AA rated, AA+ rated countries versus AAA. So why is it all going to focus on the money this month? There's so much focus on finance this month. Yeah, we talked about it before. Each month seems to have a different theme to it, but this month seems to be gold and degradation of the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, it seems, what's so weird about that is when you're looking at the news and you see things in foreign countries that are destroying the dollar, but then you look at the people running the things right here in the U.S., destroying the dollar on this side. So it's like that obviously is a goal of the world elite, whether indirectly or directly through some of the countries that are joining the BRICS. And I put in the chat a list of those that you sent me there: the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, Venezuela, Argentina, Indonesia, Ethiopia, Bahrain, Mexico, Nigeria, Algeria, Egyptian, and Iran. Now, I see that as a list of countries that you can absolutely expect complete turmoil and further destabilization in those exact countries. And the reason I say that is because they're going to be punished for going on the wrong side of things. But I think it's like I don't know. It's a train that you can't stop at this point. And we've always known here that eventually allowing these central bankers to print money out of thin air was going to eventually end in a pop. But the degree that you see politicians and NGOs working towards that end is just amazing. They literally want you starving, broke, and destitute by the decade's end. And that seems to be the plan across the board, no matter what you're paying attention to, if it's economics, food growth, war, the spread of disease, or the at least rumors of spread of disease. And then you have the military medical industrial complex, so to speak. You have all these different industrial complexes, otherwise known as special interest, that seem to over and over get their way when it comes to the programs and the technologies that they're allowing to enter into the human domain. One of those is the complete transformation of the products that we call food, are changing into something that is more alien and foreign than actual food that any of your ancestors going back, say, start at 1990 and go back, all the way to the dawn of time. Human beings were eating relatively good food until now. And now it's a question on not only what is the food, but what will it do to you, not only in the short term, but the long run as a species, when multiple generations eventually get used to eating these food-like stuffs as they're presented in an incremental fashion. And that's what they're doing. So across the board, from your milk, your cheese, your meat, your vegetables, everything is being altered. And that's just before it gets to the packaging and the distribution level that adds a degree of, I'm going to say, toxins in the manufacturing. And not only that, now you really have to worry about what is organic food. What is the definition of organic food that the government uses to put the little label on your products where you think that you're buying clean and delicious food? The fact is that all it takes to grow organic food is to grow it in a certain format, meaning that you put the seed in the ground and you grow it with water and you don't put any extra chemicals on it to grow it. That has nothing to do with the soil content, the depletion of it, the toxicity of it. It has nothing to do with what they did to the plant and other processes. And I guarantee you there's legal procedures and processes right now that are trying to ever change the definition of what things are to keep people in the dark about, not only agreeing to stuff, agreeing to what's in it and having consent on what's in it, but even the ways to find out what's in it, because, things get put, you can use Monsanto for an example. That's a name that everybody knows, and now you can kind of say it without any kind of, mistreatment by the social media companies. Now that, Bayer Monsanto is now, basically admitted that some of their products can or maybe cause cancer. And the way they did that is by paying out massive amounts to some people. But how do they pay everybody? It's amazing that they get away with finding a couple of victims of products and then paying them off several $1 million. And then the next thing you know, what about the other billions of people that are subjected to these same chemicals from South America, North America, Africa, European countries, and Asia, all using these pesticides, herbicides, and that's just one level of toxification. And like I said, that doesn't even include like what's in the soil, what's not in the soil. That doesn't include any alterations that they're allowed to do without reporting it. And that's where we're going right now, is that a wave of super education needs to be developed just to find out what foods you're eating. And it shouldn't be that hard, considering the amount of health trends and fads over the last 10 to 20 years where people have really got into trying to investigate what it is they're intaking into their body. But as soon as they find out what those things are, like let's use bisphenol A, for example, or BPA, as soon as people found out what it was, what it does, and, they started removing it from the products. Unfortunately, they replaced it with a more toxic version of the same thing. While the label says BPA free, they have another compound that's essentially the same thing that they now use. So lots of people rush down. They were like, ooh, they get trendy at the stores, Target, whatever, and they're buying products that they think are safe to help them live a better, cleaner life. But instead, the switcheroo games, the goalpost keeps getting moved. The definitions keep getting changed. The names of products get switched around. I'm not going to say like brand names, but for example, artificial sweeteners like aspartame and other things are now being linked to possible carcinogens or things like that. But if you knew the history of these products, some of them were literally biological weapons, like as aspartame, for example. And it came out of the military industrial complex. They needed a place to put their product, so they found ways to put it. Now you can go to the grocery store and you can find it in anything from meat to vegetable products, on and on and on. And then just the idea of, there's so many topics when it comes to food. One of them being like the alteration of literally the binary system of men and women is being affected by that. And there's plenty of scientific factual data that can show you that things like soybean and other chemicals elevate estrogen in men and children to places where it doesn't need to be. So the whole thing's toxified. And in the meantime, everybody has to live out their lives. They're paying their bills. They're worried about the war. They're worried about, political arguments. And this is exactly how the system keeps everything in place. So they continue with their pushing their, plan forward. And in the background, this is what's happening. They're transferring the wealth. They're creating a new monetary system. And this time it will be a monetary system, not meaning money, but just one system that controls everything from the top down. And, with all of these, revelations of the technological nature and the biometrics, no one is going to be able to escape this system, no matter how much you think you prepped, no matter how much, privacy you think you've secluded or got off the grid. We're in an increasingly more abundance of technology that is tracking and tracing everything, even in places that you wouldn't think. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but you can go to Google right now and log into Google and click on location history. And there is a good reason, and what's funny is you can turn off your location services. Guess what? It still tracks you. It just turns the use off for you, so you can't use it. But if you look at that, it's amazing the amount of places that you think you went privately, or even in wilderness areas, to find out that you've pinged off of some Wi-Fi or satellite that knows exactly where you're at. And this has been going on since at least, I think you can push the history back to 2006 or something like that, and see exactly where all of your devices in connection to your Google accounts have been. And that's just open spying. That has nothing to do with the collection of metadata, behavioral analytics, political connections, or, products purchased, like, I don't know, maybe self-defense products or products that may help you, live off grid or potentially be self-sustainable. All of that stuff is being put on lists in massive amounts. It's being given over to government agencies that compile it with algorithms. And whenever you pop up, they put you on lists. They put you on lists for your opinions, the websites you go to, the places you've been. I used to be a big time, go to protest, not really to protest, but to document what was going on or see it for myself. And now I realize that I subjected myself to probably several lists and connections that are not necessarily true. However, in the eyes of an algorithm, it can't tell the difference. The connection is still there. And the idea that, you know, they keep playing this backwards, we can't find out what happened to missing kids or who dropped the cocaine in the White House, yet they can grab up grandma from a blurry picture from thousands of people and charge her with stuff and lock her up. So you know how prevalent the system is when they choose to use it. And now think about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now. All these technological systems are coming in combination to show us a new nightmare of complete AI control of warfare. Yes, some of them are remote controlled, but now when you add algorithms and AI, we're about to see it's going to be something like World War I. As a matter of fact, I kept comparing our time now to World War II, but I think it really more aligns with World War I. And the fact that I see in the future vast amounts of people starving over geopolitical reasons on purpose. The destruction of Europe is pretty much, I think it's maybe irreversible. There may be still time in the United States, but I recently went to El Paso to go to the airport and send some relatives off. And I got a chance to inspect their giant migrant center. And let me tell you, whatever your opinions are about migration and movement or whether they're legal or illegal, how can the system sustain it? You can put all that stuff aside and realize that what's going on is government agencies are practicing cataloging people and putting them into what essentially is concentration camps. Not concentration camps where right now anyone's going to die or anything, but they're practicing and perfecting the art of putting people on buses and putting them through single file lines and identifying them, getting all their biometrics, and then releasing them. Now, that's the program now, but the fact that we live in a country where not once, not twice, but now 3 or 4 times, we've created concentration camps for one reason or another, and over time they've got to practice these things, and then when you start thinking about where the direction of things is going, like especially along the border, it is already completely militarized, just from the locations of the government. But now, in combination of the federal government and the Homeland Security and Border Patrol, they own vast swaths of the U.S. where they control the movement of everyone. Now, everybody thinks that's good. They're stopping the people from coming over the border. However, these operations can be turned on you in a millisecond. And the fact that they're perfecting it, and, not to accuse anyone of anything, but a couple of years back, we used to have the German military at our Air Force base here, and they would throw a Oktoberfest celebration every year. Now, again, maybe I'm a little biased in, the way I view things. But again, I saw 2 groups of militaries working together, the German military and the U.S. military, inviting people to come, party, have a good time, eat some food, listen to some music. It sounds great. But what I'm actually watching is the practice of logistics of moving people and getting them to voluntarily go through single file lines and be subjected to biometrics and then put into an area. Now, in this case, it was just a party with beer and bratwurst and some German music. However, the drunk people weren't realizing that there was 20-foot walls around them with razor wire and spotlights turning in, and there was no exit other than the single file line exit that you came in through. Now, I know that sounds really conspiracy theory, but it's unnerving to know that they're building massive camps. And if you know anything about the government, is that they never give up power. They never give up resources. So once they attain these resources and power, they will use them for something. So now we have massive, we have basically a DMZ. It's demilitarized as far as no one's fighting. However, there's lots of military. We drove through and they had the military working the roads, fixing stuff.
Ransom,
they had direct. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, maybe we need to shut this feed down on YouTube and move over to Rumble exclusively so we can talk, because I see right now we're getting close to being, too touchy on the subjects. So anybody out there listening, thank you for joining us. And please remember, Revolution Radio is our main feed going out to everything that we're doing live tonight. So if you consider this free speech important, please jump over to revolution.radio and think about giving them some support over there. But Ransom, I really think we need to cut the YouTube feed, and thank everybody for YouTube for listening tonight. But we're going to have a deeper conversation, so we're going to move everything over to the Rumble channel.